We're live, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Lynn Nesbitt, and I'm chairing today's panel. Joining me on the panel are Kent Seelan and Kira Penner. Our assessor is Stephen Lobenstein, and our administrative personnel is Crystal Harland. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I'll confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony, followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decision. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will hear items 1 and 2 on our docket today. Mrs. Harland, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Assessor, would you please state your full name?
Stephen Lobenstein.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Would you please advise me, applicant? Would you please state your full name? Diane Shinola. Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, I do. Thank you. Please be seated. Would you please rise, Mr. Applicant? Would you please state your full name?
Justin Zarnowski.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I note that both items on the docket today refer to the same property. One is for the 2024 year and one is for 25. So probably the issues are the same. So we can get into them in some detail on the first property, and then maybe on the second property, just stick to the second item, just stick to the key points there. So let's start. Oh, this is an appeal of the assessed value. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's start with item number 1. This is file number 25-564, and I understand the address is 990 Taylor. Mr. Lobenstein.
Sure. We have a roll number that's 1209-780-9155. Of course, 990 Taylor is the Taylor Avenue is the address. So we have a roll year for 2021 and a reference date of April 1st, 2021, with an assessed value of $818,000. Going down to my parcel descriptions, you can see that it was built in 2024. The zoning is C3. The land area is 488,718 square foot, with a plan area of 32,500 square feet and a leasable area of 31,800 square feet. We have a land to plan area of 15. So we'll quickly go down to my page 2. You can see it on the map here. It's just off Taylor Avenue, even though it has a Taylor Avenue address. It's near Pembina, sort of the Jubilee Pembina overpass area, and a little east of Waverly. So just to get an idea of what this property looks like now, we're going to scroll down to my page 9. So this gives you the overhead view of the property. You can see the new structure that was built with the red dot on it. And you can see the excess land that extends to the rear of that property. Furthermore, on page 9, you can get another look at the subject property from that angle. You can see that the overhead doors for the flex warehouse, the industrial portion of the building, face the access to the road, where the parking lot faces the excess land area. Again, page 10, you can get another view. It's just another angle of the property. You can see again the parking lot and the overhead doors facing the road. Page 11 just gives you sort of a diagram of the property. It shows you where the parking stalls are and shows you sort of the breakup at the moment of the subject property. Again, on page 12, you get a look from the exterior. Same with on page 13. And page 14 gives you a look of part of the interior of the property. This part's currently the floor hasn't been poured. It's really just a shell at the moment. And of course, 14 also shows you where the overhead doors are. And then 15 is just a quick picture of the one finished part of the property, just the interior entrance part. So that gives you an idea of what the property looks like. So I'm going to scroll back up to my page 3. These are the market rent comparables. This is what our model is built off of. These are net rents that are in the market. So when looking at these, we're going to be looking at location, lease starts, lease terms, similar square footage, wall height, and effective year built. These are the main components we look at when we're finding comparables for the subject property. So in terms of addresses, you have 1305 Kenaston, 1313 Kenaston, 1403 Kenaston. They're all in fairly close proximity to the subject property. Same with 99 Commerce and 91 Commerce at 143 Nature Parkway. So these are all similar types of properties. They're flex warehouse, industrial buildings that can operate many different types of businesses. The lease starts range from 2019 to 2017. The lease terms are all 5 years mostly, except for one that's 10 years. So that's fairly typical for the market. In terms of lease areas, so I have 9,000 square feet for 3 of them, and then I have a little higher, 31,000 and 45,000 and 25,000. So I'm trying to show how we've broken up these premises and also what the whole building could rent out as a whole. The average wall heights for these range from 12 feet all the way up to 24 feet, and the effective years built range from 2001 to 2018. And then you can see the net rents on the side. So these are the actual rents in the market. We have $15.50 for a low and $19.95 for a high. So we get an idea of the range. So I'll come back to my page 4 in a minute. That's the land comparable sales. I'm going to go down to my page 5, and we can see the income workup here. So for the one tenant that is in there right now, we have a model rent of $18.10. So that was the picture I showed you of the completed office space or space in there. And then for the rest of them, we have them broken up into 2,500 square feet. And we just have a shell rent because obviously there's no flooring in there at the moment. So we just put $2 on this for a shell rent. So this gives us a potential rent of $253,580. Moving down, you can see a vacancy we have of 6.5% in there. Expenses are 3% and a shortfall rate of $3.85 per square foot to get our net operating income of $222,026. We've applied a 5.05% capitalization rate to it, and this gives us our capitalized value of $4,396,554. So that's just the capitalizing the income of this property. There's also the additional land value we've added. So you can see just below the capitalized value, we have a land value of $3,421,000. So going back up to my page 4, at the bottom of it, you can see the land value. So we are saying that 244,359 square feet of this property is excess land. We're applying $14 per square foot for this excess land. And that gives us a value of $3,421,000. So, and above this are all land sale comparables. So we have 8 of them. They range all over the city due to the fact that there is not a lot of land, industrial land specifically, left in the city for development, especially at this size. So we're looking at ranges, so from as high as 453,000 square feet to as low as, I guess, 112,000 square feet. The comparables are Oak Point Highway, they're in Fort Garry. There's a few along Chevrier or Waverly. You have some 475 Debates and 900 Pandora, which is more in the St. Boniface Industrial Park or Transcona area. So there's a wide range of comparable land sales here. Some of them, such as comparable one, does have limited access or no sewer or water. Some of them have other restrictions, such as retention ponds. Some of them are in high traffic areas, which is actually good for industrial properties. And so, yeah, we can also see a range here. So we have a high of $15.87 a square foot. Oh, sorry, a high of $25.57 a square foot to a low of $10.65 per square foot for these land sales. The land sales definitely, for sale date, definitely have a large range, again, due to the fact that there's just not a lot of industrial land that sells. So we have a sale date February 18th, 2014, and one as recent as October 20th, 2022.
Yeah.
That being said, so you can see that these support our $14 rent per square foot. I think that covers just about everything in terms of valuation. So like I said, because of that, we have a capitalized value on my page 5 of $4,396,000. And then we're adding the land value of $3,421,000 to get our estimated value of $7,818,000. So we feel this value is fair and should be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Schindelman, Mr. Jarnowski, I don't know how you want to handle questions. Is one going to always go first, or are you just going to throw them out there?
We prefer to do a more chaotic approach, if that's okay with everyone. Just whoever's got the best question goes next, if you'll permit us. So you had talked about some of the pictures you had included in your brief, which I think are actually really helpful in understanding the site. So on page 9, you identified the building, and then just north of that, there's a bunch of parked cars on what seems to be gravel or dirt. Do you know what that is? So there's Sparling, there's a bunch of parked cars, and then there's the subject site, the new building. What's the parked cars there?
I'm not too sure. I mean, I can take a look here if you like.
Well, so I think it's fair to say you didn't look into it and it didn't factor into your valuation then?
No, I mean, it's a property that's not part of this property, so no, it would not factor into the valuation.
So the adjacent site influences don't factor in when you're valuing properties?
Not in terms of a parking lot, no, that would not factor in.
Okay, and then there's a rail line on the south side. Would it be fair to say that didn't factor into your valuation either?
No, that would not affect the valuation for an industrial property.
Okay, and on this picture, it's got a Taylor address. You said it was adjacent to Pembina. Does it have access off of Pembina?
No, it only has access off of Harrow, it looks like, and Sparling. And I guess there's an access point off Taylor. There's a road you can drive down to access the property.
So the access, you'd agree, is pretty limited?
Yeah, access is limited for sure.
Okay, and then looking at your comparables on page 4 for the land sales. Comparable 1, you've got the area is Oak Point Highway, the address is 0. Could you give us a little bit more context on what that property is?
Sure, it's a property just off of Oak Point Highway. Again, it doesn't have great access to either. You have to drive down a dirt road to access it. It's kind of tucked behind another property. I'm not too sure what else I can say about it. It's as I mentioned, it doesn't have any land or water at the moment. It hasn't been serviced, so yeah.
Okay, and then looking at comparable 8, you landed on a value of, I prefer the per acre, but I'll use your per square foot of $14. So your comparable 8 at 475 debates at 25.57 a square foot. I guess you would identify this as a better property, more valuable property than the subject.
Yeah, it would probably be. I mean, it sold for a higher price than the subject, so I guess it was valued higher. Yes, I mean in terms of price per square foot.
Well, you must have looked at it and said, I've got a comparable of 25. I'm landing at 14. This must be more valuable, right?
Yep.
Okay, and so that's actually a property we know an awful lot about because we bought it. And the problem I have with that is, what if I told you that the sworn value you have is correct, but your land area is incorrect, and that the actual amount purchased here was 22 acres?
This is the information that we've received. So we only go by the information that we have that's been sent to us. So this is what we were told the land area was, and that is the price per square foot. So if that's something that we need to go back and look at and find and be sent the correct information, then we will definitely reevaluate that.
Okay, so yeah, just we'll deal with that in rebuttal. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to speak to that. So then looking at your rent comparables, you've got, these are all in what I call the Tarragon Business Park on Keniston.
Sorry, my the lease comparables or
Page 3.
Okay, yeah, mostly these would probably be these subject properties probably the most similar. I mean these leases probably the most similar to the subject property in terms of the type of building.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, these are all part of the same development that Terracon did on Keniston.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and so there's a lot of different types of uses in there. There's some actual industrial, but for the most part, there's a lot of office. So just looking at each of these, I mean, you've got the address and not the use. Are these built out as industrial? Why don't we go one by one? 1305 Keniston. Do you know what who the user is and what the use is?
You just have to give me a second, sure.
If it helps, I'm going to ask you on all of them. So
no, yeah, I'm aware. Just give me a second here. I actually don't have the usages right now, so.
Okay, but you're vaguely familiar with that area. You know that there's like People Corp is there.
Sure.
There's Remax. There's Heartland, which is a medical clinic. Like these are at least a lot of these are office spaces and not industrial spaces.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing about the flex warehouse and that category of property is that there can be many different types of I guess usages, as you put it. So there can be offices, there can be medical. I think some of them have gyms in them. Other ones, I've seen ones with like, I guess like fun parks and stuff like that. Like they're all, the flex warehouse just allows for that. It allows for a broad range of different usages.
And so for those users like offices and gyms that have higher parking demand and are more intensive uses, would you expect that they would attract a higher net rent?
I mean, that could be one factor in it, sure.
Yeah, I mean, all else being equal, I think it's fair to say they would attract a higher net rent.
But as you mentioned, there's also offices in there too, so they wouldn't demand, they wouldn't be a retail outlet like I mentioned there, so they would just have normal parking as well.
All right, I think the last thing I want to talk about, and then I'll give Diane some time on the mic. Just on your valuation on page 5, you've got a capitalization rate of 505.
Yep.
And then you put some cap rate evidence, your standard table on 7, right?
Yeah, I apologize. I actually didn't cover my my cap rate evidence there. So go ahead with your question.
Okay, well, I mean, that is kind of my question.
Yeah.
You know, this 505, I'm looking at, I don't know where you think this falls, whether it's multi-tenant B, industrial B, or suburban office, but in all of those respects, I don't see a number, like the lowest number I see in your percentile is 555.
Sorry, I'll explain. So yeah, so you can see at the top of the chart, we have the 20th to the 80th percentile. So that's the range of, like, the vast majority of Winnipeg properties fall within that range. There are a select few that do fall out of those ranges. So the 5.5 would fall out of the lower range, and this is basically because it's a newer building, a newer structure in the area it's in, the southern part of Winnipeg. So our model landed on a 5.05% cap rate for that.
But you'll agree that that's when Collier says low, they're not talking 20th percentile, they're talking that's the bottom of the market they've seen. Same with CBRE, same with Cushman.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at their reports and I have an understanding of what they look at. They don't look at all the properties in the city of Winnipeg. They have a very select sort of view of it. So, I mean, we are tasked with looking at all properties. So we feel that our model has generated an accurate cap rate.
I mean, this is your table though, right? You wanted us to look at this?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think I have any other questions.
I don't think I have any other questions.
I did a good job.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Mr. Seelan, questions for the assessor?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair. This property access is, I think you said through Harrow. Is there other access points with this? Is it off of Wilton as well?
Yeah, so if you look at my page 9, you can see there's the Sparling property, which comes in off Harrow, and then there's another connection that leads up to Taylor there as well. So, but yeah, the main access would be through Sparling and Harrow would be my understanding of it.
And I think you mentioned that we don't know. There's a bunch of parking in front. I think that's probably to the north of the property.
Yeah, I looked into it. That's Hydro. Hydro's parking some trucks there.
Okay. The property adjacent to Sparling, north of that, is parking as well. Is that Hydro as well?
I think that's, give me a second, that might be the Walmart that's there. I'm not too sure. No, that would be the Walmart. That's on Taylor.
Okay.
Or Hydro, sorry, north of it. Yeah, sorry, north of it's Hydro, and then beside it is the Walmart.
It's a Walmart. So the people are really driving. Is that actually a street? Is Wilton actually west of the property? Is Wilton coming?
I think it's just an access. I don't know if it's an actual street. So I think people can access it's just a main access to the Walmart and to the subject property is my understanding.
Is there any signage for this building on Taylor? Like it's
signage. I don't know if there's signage or not. No.
Okay. So this is really set back deep.
Yeah.
Close to railway tracks. Okay. The vacant land, is this all flat land or is there water on this or?
No, we went out and inspected it. I had a colleague of mine go and inspected it, and she says that initially there was issues with this land. There was a well on it, but that has since been remediated, is my understanding. So my understanding is that it could be developed.
When was it inspected?
It was inspected this fall.
This fall?
Last fall, yeah. I don't have the exact dates, but yeah, this fall.
Understood. That's all my questions at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Seelan. Ms. Penner, questions?
Thank you. I think most of mine have been covered. Just in regards to the vacant land, For each of your comparable sales, you have land influences there. Could you speak maybe to a bit of to some of the land influences that would affect this property? Is it serviced? Sorry, I'm asking multiple questions at once, but like comparable 7 has rail line as a land influence. Is that a positive or a negative, or how does that
Sure, yeah.
impact?
I can speak to that. So my understanding is that it is now serviced due to the fact that there is a building on it. So there is sewer and water for this property. In terms of rail influences, for industrial properties, rail influence is usually a positive. A lot of industrial parks do have rail lines and spur lines that run through them, and to move goods and materials and stuff like that, you'll also see them connected to like spur lines coming out of main lines to be connected. There is setbacks within the city for residential properties, but I don't believe that has any effect on industrial properties. And so in terms of influences, I mean, it is serviced. There is a rail line that runs alongside of it, but I don't believe that would have any effect on the value.
And then just in terms of exposure, it looks like, just looking at the map, it looks like the property's kind of tucked back away from any major corridors where it would have exposure. Would that impact the leasability of the site, or would you expect those tenants to not be as concerned with that?
I guess it all depends on the type of tenant it's trying to attract. Maybe for more of a retail type tenant, it might be difficult to attract a client to something that's set back like this. But as I mentioned before, Flex Warehouse has the ability to attract many different types of tenants. So like we talked about there is currently an office in there at the moment. So what the other types of tenants that are attracted to here, I couldn't say, but yeah, so exposure might be different because it's difficult for some types of tenants, but I think Flex Warehouse has the ability to attract many different types.
That was all for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also want to just look at the land piece again. You used a value of $14. You said it's justifiable based on your comparables. There's several that are lower.
Yep.
There's a couple that are higher. I'm going to exclude comparable 8. We've heard some conflicting evidence about it, and it seems to be a little bit of an outlier in terms of value. So I'm wondering about that just in the price per square foot. But how did you land on 14?
It's a model driven rent. So what we've done is we've calculated out the land to building ratio, and then we looked at the land to building ratio, and then usually you start looking at excess land around 4:1. As you can see, this is 15:1, but due to its limited access, we landed on 7.36:1 for the excess land. So about half of it we would consider excess land. And then, so for the model value, sure. We're looking at, again, as I spoke about with land sales, there's, especially for that size, there's not a lot within the city. So you really have to scour it and look across the city. So some of them are older, like a 2014 sale at $10.65 a square foot. It's on Waverly. There's another one on Waverly, which is 2016. The Oak Point Highway one's 2015. So then I have some that are in 2020. So I think it's just like a broad range. It shows what the market is for land within the last few years, because unfortunately, like there are more lease comparables we can look at. There just aren't a lot of land sales. So you really have to broaden the areas you look at and the time.
Okay, so these are actual sale prices. They're not time adjusted in any way.
No, these are actual sale prices.
Okay. You refer to the land as excess land.
Yep.
Suggests to me it can be developed.
Yep.
And it be subdivided and water put in there.
Yeah, well, I mean, there already is a water line that runs to it and a sewage line. So, I mean, it could be subdivided and there could be other properties put on there or other structures put on there.
Okay. Okay, so then just going back to the rent that you have on the premises, I'm assuming that's model because we don't have any I&E statement for this property that we can look at an actual lease?
Sure, and then the $18.10 is the model. The $2 is just a shell rent. We
Yeah.
put on all properties when they're not completed.
Okay. Okay. I'm sure I had more questions in my head when I started out, but I think that's it for now. Thank you, Mr. Laberstein. Ms. Schindelman or Mr. Janowski, whoever is presenting, please start with your evidence.
We have rebuttal as well.
Okay, so we'll deal with the rebuttal following us addressing your main evidence, okay?
Okay, thank you. I will start, maybe Justin will step in. So yeah, I think you're fairly familiar with the property now. Just if you want to look at a different view. So you understand on. Well, like on page 9. If you look at the top where yellow is the excess land and to the right of that is the building, you can see that it is really set back. So I know that that was a bit of a question from some of the panel. So you can see that the portion with sort of the green portion to the lower part of the picture is the houses. That street is Taylor, and you would have to go from Taylor all the way down this road to get to the building. And then again, there's actually not real access to the vacant land yet because there's no road or anything there. And then the pink in front is mostly hydro.
Yeah.
It's all hydro, the pink little squares. And so there is little visibility, if any, and very, very limited access.
Yeah, to get to the building from Harrow, you'd need a 4x4 in good weather.
I just wanted to mention, we'll go back to page 1 and we'll talk about there are some impairments with the location, as I pointed out, and there's a rail setback as well at the back. You can see back on page 9, there's a fair bit of land behind the yellow portion that's all set back as well that we can't build near the rail line there. And that's about it. On page 2 is the income workup, and I'll reference the comparables as I go through that. So the tenanted space, 11,260 square feet. We have a market rent of $14, and the vacant space we've put in at $2 since that's how the city would do it. Vacancy we've used the same as the city, and the vacancy, although the vacant portion of the building is still not leased. It's been over a year and it's still not leased, but because it's only valued at $2, we left the vacancy in the same as the city. And shortfall, we've used a slightly higher shortfall. Taxes actually for this building are over $4, so the shortfall of $385 wouldn't be enough for the leased portion for sure. So we've used 5, and the vacancy, we've used the 385. We've included a management fee of 5%. The existing tenant doesn't pay any management fee. It's a federal government tenant, and they don't pay management fee. The cap rate of 6.25 is just an adjustment on the cap rate schedule that was provided by the city. And given the situation with this property, where it's located, the access, the other impairments, we've come up to a value of cap rate of 6.25 or a value of 2.181808, and plus the vacant portion of 512,288 for a total of 2,694,096.
remaining land, unfortunately, I did everything in acres, so it is 5.6 acres. We've used 300,000 per acre for 1,680,000, which we have comparables for the total of 4,374,000.
And I think at this point, well, as we're talking about the land value, it's actually worth revisiting the debates property. I think there was mention of excluding it. I actually think you shouldn't. And the reason for that is we bought it at $160,000 an acre from Quadreal, within a year or 2 years of the reference date. So that was an arm's length transaction. For our money, that site has been better. It's serviced, it's got the access is off of debates, it's got visibility from Plessis. And I think most importantly, you heard from the assessor that actually he also thinks it's a better property. So if you've got an arm's length transaction at 160,000 an acre, I don't think that that's something you should exclude. It's a very appropriate comparable for this site. It's a very similar. We developed that site, not the entire thing, but we put very similar buildings on it. And so I think you should actually put an awful lot of weight on that. We've come in significantly higher. We're saying, it's 300,000 an acre, not 160. But I would strongly urge you to look at that sale and that it's you'll see in our rebuttal, we're providing the entire purchase agreement so you can be comfortable with the price and how it's calculated. And to know that really the market value for this type of land isn't 600,000-700,000 an acre, it's significantly less.
On page 3 are the rent comparables. Some of them are in similar locations as the assessors used, and then we've used some other ones as well for office and industrial, which is included as well. The range is from $11 to $15. We used 14. We think the 147 Commerce is fairly comparable at 14, and as well as on 475 Debates, tenant at $14 for similar size of space, similar finish. These are some of the comparables: 1200 Portage on page 4, 1595 Buffalo, 924 Lorimore, 147 Commerce, 1150 Waverly, and 1099 Wilkes. And then on page 7 is the 475 Debate property. All similar buildings, similar construction, some partial office, partial industrial, similar to the subject. I mentioned already the shortfall analysis. We've used a little bit higher because for a couple of reasons. Part of the building is leased to a federal government tenant, and their requirements for maintaining their property is a little bit higher. And for this particular tenant, and also like I said, the taxes are already over $4, so the $385 was not sufficient. I mentioned about the non-recoverable management fee. We used 5% because this existing tenant doesn't pay any management fee.
And just to address one of the questions on the influence of rail here, the rail line that's adjacent to us is the CN main line. So the opportunity to get a spur line off of it is virtually zero. Really, the railways have been so reluctant to grant spur lines without huge traffic these days. I would politely disagree with the assessor that having a rail influence is a positive. But certainly the opportunity to connect to this rail line is zero. And so what it leaves us with is an adjacent use that is very, very loud, and potentially impacts those tenants. So I respectfully disagree, and I would say here that rail influence, especially because it's the main line with a lot of trains, is a negative.
And then finally, with respect to cap rate analysis, again, we've selected a cap rate that is appropriate for this site, about halfway in between the 20th and the 80th percentile. It has some impairments. It is a new building, but it has some impairments that we feel that 625 is appropriate.
And the reality is the existing condition of this building is it remains vacant. So we don't get it wrong very often. But we, at least to date, have gotten this one wrong. It hasn't been a great building that would attract the lowest possible cap rate. And in Winnipeg, if somebody was buying this, they'd be looking at the fact that it's, more than half vacant and has been for some time, and would be factoring that in. So this isn't like the absolute tenderloin. This is, like Diane said, middle of the road, that would attract a normal cap rate.
On page 10, you can see a few more photos of the subject. The hydro land is indicated there in the red outline. Again, you can see in the grassed portion, there is no access to, or there's no roadway, I guess, to the vacant land. With respect to a little bit more information on the rail line, there is the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Railway Regulations that is in place. And so we do have a setback, and that again uses up a portion of the land that is there, and our ability to develop the vacant land. Okay, so I just want to read this one paragraph on page 15. The lack of frontage, poor access, and no visibility does not support prime development, and possibly only a destination industrial use could be considered if there was demand. Currently, there is no demand, and the industrial building on the site is 65% vacant and has been for over a year. This site is also in a combined sewer district, which results in the City of Winnipeg Water and Waste Development having a unilateral veto if they determine potential development is not consistent with their records or projections. The uncertainty of the sewer capacity and whether a building permit can be obtained further impairs this land. So that's a huge issue that we've had. And if you look to, again, to page 22, or not again, but to page 22, this is the information from the engineer at the city indicating what we can and cannot do.
And this was a surprise to us, but happens to be exactly on the reference date. Really generous of them to have responded then. But pretty much what the Coles notes of this is, because this is me arguing with Tim, that the city has projections, and you sort of find out about them as you go along. In this case, they said if you build the apartment building at the front on Taylor, you're out of capacity. We're still, we disagree with that and intend to continue arguing with them, but I think you can clearly see the city's position here, which is that, that there's not going to be any other development, so that it's kept under the plan that we submitted in 2014.
Okay, on page 15, then I have cell comparables of vacant land, similar vacant land, or sorry, not similar, but vacant land. And pictures following of the plan of where the land is located. And there's the values per acre, and again, I'm sorry, it's marked by acre, is a low of 99,000 up to 500, 2.5. If we look at page 16 and forward, it shows the land, the sale comparables, and they have excellent access. Page 16 on Oak Point Highway. On page 17, this is land on Camille Sis, which is in this industrial park. 2 parcels, and again on Camille Sis on page 18, and all with excellent frontage on right on a road, right on the street. 2185 Logan again has access and frontage right on Logan. And 675 Camille Sis again, and 600 Camille Sis, all in a congruent industrial park type area. 451 Debates on has access on both Debates and Camille Sis. And then 25 Forester is just a little bit obscure out in Transcona off Narren and Foster. And all of these parcels have excellent access and frontage as compared to the subject, which does not. So finally, again, our value is at 4,374,000 with land at 300,000 per acre, which I guess I can figure that out by square feet for everybody. Is $6.88, 89 cents per square foot. And that is our value for 2021 reference year.
And then just, I made a couple of notes to get in front of a couple of your questions. The 990 Taylor doesn't have any signage along Taylor. The pylon sign, and this is typical for our developments, is reserved for retail tenants. And then this site, to your question on the water, it actually used to be a retention pond before we were able to connect into the Coburn-Kilrossie larger works. We connected our land drainage sewer into the Coburn-Kilrossie. We were able to dry out the pond. And then ultimately build this building and the parking lot next door. So it's, I mean, it's wild, but it's not overly wet.
That's everything.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lobenstein, questions?
I just have a few questions. So you did include a land value, and I can't find it anywhere. Can you tell me the acreage or the square footage you used for the land value? Unless I missed it in your brief.
It's I think it's in here. It's 5.6 acres, which is the 244,000 square feet that you used as well.
Okay, sure. I didn't know what you guys use, so I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it's on page 1. Yeah.
Yeah, and so my next question is just for your comparables on your page 3. 1200 Portage, that's a 5-story office building. I think you have it in your pictures, or
yes.
3-story office building.
It's 4 stories, but yeah.
Yeah, so this isn't very comparable to the subject property at all due to its configuration and built in 1971. Would you agree?
I'll give you that. Sure, it's a little bit less comparable, yes.
Okay, and 1595 Buffalo. It's a manufacturing at 31,843 square feet. Also built in 2000, so 24 years older than the subject property. Doesn't really attract offices or retail or anything like that. Is that correct?
Not retail, no, for sure. It appears to be in excellent condition, but.
And it has office. So remember, this subject site isn't just an office, it's the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. So there's a significant portion of it that's used to inspect food, which is an industrial use, like it's not offices.
Okay. And 1150 Waverly, similarly built in 1971. Is this an office building or is this industrial? I wasn't too sure when I was looking at it.
I have it as office. I can't remember who's in there.
All right, those are all my questions on the comparables. Yeah, actually, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Penner, questions for the applicant?
I don't think I have any left. I think they've all been covered. Yes, I'm good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan?
Yes, you mentioned about a setback. If I go to page 9 of your notes that you have here, I see that we have 5.6 acres in yellow. Is the setback the white portion between the rail line and the acreage?
Yeah.
Wait, I don't think it is.
And
Sorry, Diane's faster than I am. No, that white portion is actually what the city took from, so I don't know how long of a history lesson. When they did the active transportation and the bus route just south of our site, what they had a decision to make whether they were going to do an active transportation pathway that crossed Pembina there, or whether they would have it be further north and south. the city chose the gold standard option, which was having an AT pathway adjacent to the bus rapid transit. What that forced them to do is to relocate the rail line north into our property. And they expropriated that white portion, so that's not setback, that's land the city took from us. You can actually see the rail line goes into it and then exits it, so that's why it's not in yellow, because it's not, the city expropriated that from us and hopefully will pay us for it at some point.
So the transportation line is actually to the top of the picture towards the Pembina Highway loop there by.
So I'll start at the yellow, the 5.6 acres. The white is where the rail line is now located, the CN line. The paving there, the large paving, is the Southwest Rapid Transit line. And then there's a very small, it looks small in the context, but it's, a big AT path. There's an AT path that follows it just on the south side of it. So that was the design decision they took. And as part of that, they were gonna need a temporary easement if they didn't do the AT pathway, but because they did the AT pathway, they had to relocate the CN line, and that required taking some of our land.
Gotcha. Thank you on that question. With respect to the rail lines, etc., is your building built with extra acoustics or anything for sound from the railway?
So these days, our Polo Park development went through a lot of the acoustic side. With building code and the energy requirements you have, there's not a lot of acoustic that you have to do, because the more energy efficient it is, the more sound attenuated the building is, because sound gets in the same way that heat gets out. So when you build to building code these days, you really, unless there's like a specialty use like a daycare or medical, you don't really have to do extra sound attenuation. Just buildings tend to be very soundproof by virtue of meeting building code.
How about vibration?
So we had that discussion with the feds when they were, because they were on the NCAP. Again, we didn't do anything different than we were going to do to mitigate that. It's just that the building's a new concrete building. It's pretty stable.
Okay. On your comparables, you mentioned Kamel Sis, and I think you mentioned the location. What area is Kamel Sis located?
So they call it St. Boniface Industrial, which I always think is a bit of a goofy name, but that's just west of Plessis at Dougal.
Dougal. Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I just have a question on the that you use $300 an acre in your valuation. You said that the Comp 8 that we've been talking about in the city's evidence, you valued it's valued at $160 per acre. Was that correct?
That is correct.
So you said
and you'll see,
go ahead.
Sorry, you'll see that in our rebuttal. Because we anticipated a little bit of skepticism, we just photocopied the entire purchase agreement. We didn't ask Quadrille, so hopefully they'll be all right with it. But as I understand where you're coming from, I'm almost thinking we're too high at 300, but it's what we said, so we don't want to confuse anyone.
Yeah, like you indicated that it was a superior property, and yet you're quite a bit higher.
We always struggle with trying to appear as reasonable as possible to make your job easy.
I'm sure you have my best interests at heart. Okay, and on your cap rate, this is just you've taken a look at some impairments, you've tried to quantify that into an adjusted cap rate, and you picked the middle, I think is what you said, right?
Right.
So it's the middle of the cities between the 20th and 80th?
Approximately, yes.
Okay. Did you bring any cap rate analysis of your own that would justify that adjustment?
I didn't do that.
Okay. Okay. I don't have any other questions. So you indicated, Ms. Schindelman, that you do have rebuttal. So let's just give Mrs. Harland a couple minutes to make sure that's distributed to everyone.
Madam Chair, the rebuttal for you and the panel members are in your OneDrive file,
Okay,
and I will send rebuttal to our assessor.
okay.
Always learning it already.
Mr. Lobenstein, do you have it?
No,
Not
just,
yet? Okay,
Not yet. I'll let you know when I do.
yeah, thank you.
Mr. Lovenstein should get the rebuttal shortly, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I have it now.
Okay, do you need a minute to look at it?
No, it's fine. You can go ahead with the presentation.
Thanks very much. Ms. Schindelman, Mr. Jarnowski?
Thank you. Okay, so page 2 just shows where all the assessors comps are. They're all in the one same development that I think Mr. Zarnowski was referring to before.
Okay,
And the vacant land comparables, I've also have some diagrams of where they're located, and again. So let's do those.
and did you want to take us through any of these?
Yes, I'll just quickly take you through.
Sure.
425 Oak Point is comparable number 5, and again, it has excellent visibility and access on the front. And on page 4 is just a aerial showing that, and it's developed now. 1450 Waverly is comparable number 3, and again, excellent visibility and access on Waverly. And then on page 6, you can see it's also developed now, and Waverly is a main thoroughfare. 1420 Waverly is comparable number 4. It's not developed yet. It has visibility and access on Waverly and Clarence, so on 2 streets. And it appears to still be vacant. On page 5 is comparable number 2. Again, has visibility of Avenue G and access from Henlow Bay to Fultz Boulevard as well, and it is also developed. 900 Pandora is comparable number 6, and it is located with access and excellent visibility on Pandora, and you can see as well, it's this sort of long, partially developed site of Pandora. 40 Nicholas is again has direct access off Marion on Nicholas Avenue. Page 15 is 475 Debates. So in fact, this picture with the shaded in areas, that is the land that was purchased for the 3,563,000. So these 5 sites, 1, 2, and this little skinny 1, 3, 4, 5 sites, that was the total land purchased for 3,563,000. The next page is the completed offer to purchase, and if you go down to page 20, you'll see the purchase price. 3,536,000. And then if you go to page 22, it shows the acreage was 21 in the offer, but then it got adjusted to 22 acres. And then the purchase price, you can see to the left, with the new measurement, it was 160,000 per acre. The whole, the completed offer, signed offer is all included there. On page 38, there's a area certification from Pollock and Wright showing that it's actually 22.27 acres for that particular sale at $160,000 an acre. So that's everything.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lobenstein, questions on the rebuttal?
Actually, I'm just, I guess, just one question on your page 9. It's my comparable that you've sent a picture of is 55 Foltz Boulevard. I'm kind of struck by the similarities between this one and the subject property. So this one's off Scurfield, tucked at the end of Henlow Bay with only one part of access. Keniston rings around it, similar to how Pembina does with the subject property. The land areas are fairly similar. Would you not say that this would be a fairly accurate comparable for the subject property?
Well, no, because it's right next to the auto mall, right? I mean, that's the value of this site. And you look at all of the uses that are around there is if it wasn't for the Waverly Auto Mall that's immediately adjacent, I think you'd be right. But you have to consider the context in which these exist, and that's a hugely important context for all the businesses that locate around here.
Within your picture you've submitted, it shows that they actually don't have access to the Waverly Auto Mall through a developed road. So would that?
But it's adjacent, right? Like it's on Henlow Bay, which is right there.
It's right on Abinogi. It's the visibility is.
Like in ours, you know, the reason that tire company is there isn't because it's a great location. Right?
Yeah, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Seelan, questions on the rebuttal? You're muted, Mr. Seelan.
Thank you. You have a property on Waverly Street, I think it's 1450, that's part of your comparables here.
So yeah, we just wanted to, these are the assessor's comparables, we just wanted to give you the context in what they actually look like. So it's just to make sure you understand the difference between his and our site.
Okay, so this is actually a computer data center, right?
The second Waverly property, it is, yeah.
Yes, yeah, okay, just for confirmation. And I think my questions have been asked about Foltz, so thank you very much, Madam Chair. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Penner?
No questions for me, thank you.
Thank you. And I have no questions either. Mr. Lobenstein, do you have rebuttal evidence?
I do not know.
Okay, then thank you for that. Mr. Lobenstein, would you care for a summation on this property?
I have no summation, no.
Thank you. Mr. Jarnowski or Ms. Schindelman, summation?
Well, because I can't help myself, I'll go very briefly. I think it's pretty clear that the comparables for the rent were from one particular area, and they were all chosen with a view to justify as high a rate as possible. So I hope that you can factor that into that analysis. And likewise with the comparables for the land sale, to our mind, ours are more appropriate, apart from the assessor providing the comparable and debates to show the actual industrial value. And so we're hopeful that our evidence prevails on that, because that is market evidence. But otherwise, we'll leave it in your hands.
Thank you very much. That will conclude item number 1. Okay, does anybody need a quick break before we move on to item 2, or should we just proceed?
Do it.
Thoughts?
Fine.
Okay, let's do it. All right, Mr. Lobenstein, we will now deal with file number 25565. This is the same property for the 2025 year, 990 Taylor. So go ahead when you're ready, please.
Sure, I'm not going to go over the particulars of the property. I'll just stick to the valuation aspect of it.
Perfect, thank you.
The roll number is 12097809155. We have a roll year of 2025 and a reference date of April 1st, 2023. With an assessed value of 9 million. Sorry, just give me a sec here. $9,464,000. Again, we know the building's built in 2024 and is 31,800 square feet of leasable area. So moving down, so again, I'm going to look at the comparables. They're similar comparables or the same comparables, but they've been updated since the since last cycle. So we're looking at $20.95 for a high and $15.38 for a low. They're all in the exact same location as you mentioned. Again, these are net values. I'm just trying to show you that our model, this is the type of rent per square foot our model would be looking at to place on the subject property. Again, the land comparables are all the same on my page 4, and we actually have an $18 per square foot for the 2023 assessment year, or sorry, 2025. With the April 1st, 2023 effective date. Moving to the valuation on my page 5, again, the main difference is with the $20.81 per square foot on the one premise. We still have a $2 shell rent on the rest of the premises. We have a $4 or 4% vacancy. Expenses are 3%, and the overall capitalization rate's actually gone up slightly to 5.15% for this year. We have a capitalized value of $5,064,544 and then we add the additional land value of $4,399,000. Everything else in my brief is the same as before, so I'm not really going to go through that. Again, so I feel since we've covered everything, I'll just stop there and say that we feel it's fair and equitable and should be confirmed at $9,464,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lobenstein. Ms. Schindelman, Mr. Jarnowski, questions?
Yeah, and we'll likewise, obviously you have in your mind the questions we asked last time, so we'll focus on the differences. So on page 3 on your rent comparables, you've got the same ones. I would think it's fair to say 1305 Keniston, they must have renewed. It's a new lease because you go from 1995 to 2095.
Yep.
Then for 191 Commerce Drive, you had 1795 and now you're at 1995, but it's the same lease.
Must have been a step up in it.
Right. And so looking at your comparable sales in page 4, you're now at $18 a square foot.
Yep.
And these are all there's no new comparables here. These are all.
They're all the same. Yeah.
Okay, and so you must be doing some sort of time adjustment then to get to 18?
Well, I mean, the model itself would be doing a time adjustment, yes, but these I'm just showing the actual sale prices of what they sold for.
Okay, and so that'd be a 30% increase.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, and this is 2 years later, right?
Yeah.
So 15% a year?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, looking at the page 5, now we've got a cap rate of 5.15. It's fair to say that that's model driven.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and then looking at the now updated table, whether we call this industrial office, 5.15 is still below the cap rates, or at least the 20th percentile cap rates for industrial and office.
Yeah, it's slightly below it. Yeah, 5.15 to 5.35. Yeah.
Interestingly, these cap rates are actually lower than the 2021 ones. Well, this cap rate went up. How do you account for that?
So we look at different areas of the city. So within this area, the cap rate may have increased slightly, but they're fairly close.
Okay, I think that's it for me.
Nothing for me.
All right. Quick and easy.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Seelan, questions for the assessor?
Okay, so I think you've mentioned, and I just want to make sure that I have this, land comparable sales were the actual prices. And that there was no adjustment made for the date as far as the reference date.
Correct, yeah, these are the actual sale prices in the land comparables, yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions, Madam Chair. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Ms. Penner?
And no questions for me, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lobenstein, I just want to clarify on your market income workup. You're now using a rent of $20.81 for the one premise, correct?
Correct, yeah,
And that's an increase from last time you used 18.
that's correct.
Do you have this time an INE that supports that rent?
No, we would not have an INE.
Not yet?
Again, our INEs are used in our model. We don't just use one INE to support one rent in one building.
But you
yeah,
don't,
no, we would not have, the fact that this building just came online, we won't be
Okay.
putting an INE until.
so not yet.
Not
Okay.
yet, no.
Still too early.
Yeah, too early, that's
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
All right. Okay, and I think I understand the rest. So, and you maintained that shell rent.
That's correct. Yeah, they still haven't been developed in there yet.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, Ms. Schindelman and Mr. Jarnowski.
Okay, so we'll do the same. We'll just point out the few differences as the evidence is quite similar as well as the previous. On page 2, the valuation. We've used a rent of 1625, which would be approximately in our range of comparables on the next page. The same 4% as the city. And again, a slightly higher shortfall for the same reasons. Government tenant and the property taxes are over $4, and then the same $4 for the vacant space. Cap rate at 6.25. Again, the range is 5.25 to 7.3 of all the sales that the city has collected. So somewhere in the middle, we've gone with the 6.25. And for the vacant land, we're at 350,000 per acre. Page 3, some of the comps have changed. Again, they range from comps around the 2021, 2022, 2023. They range from $9 up to $16.50, and we're at $16.25. We can quickly go through. These are pictures of the comps. You can see 146 Commerce is in a very similar area. We have a gain on Debates, one on Stradbrook, and Wilkes. Nature Park is in that same area as the assessor, and 500 Debates. Again, some in the St. Boniface Industrial Park in Milcis, along Sherwood Road, and then there is one in the city for Crozier Kilgore. Everything else is pretty much the same. Same pictures of the site, the rail setup. The sale comparables on page 17. Good comparison to. We have one newer, a couple new comparables, Inkster and Brookside. In May 2021, 6.49 acres, very similar in size for 323,574. And 730 Camille Sis for 5.163 acres for 250,000 an acre. And those are the two different sales that I have supporting the value. similar pictures, again, the comparables I just outlined, if you have access and visibility. That's better access and visibility compared to the subject. Everyone else is pretty much the same.
Yeah, and just to highlight, we're at $350 an acre, which is about $8 a square foot for the value of the land. Based on those comps, and then obviously to account for the fact that land does appreciate, not at 15% a year, but it does go up yearly.
That's everything.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lobenstein, questions?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Ms. Penner?
Just one. I was wondering about the increase in rent. If we're seeing this building remain vacant, would that increase in rent just be reflective of an expected step up that would be part of the lease? Or can you maybe speak to why use a higher lease rate?
So one of the great things about our business is rent goes up every year. I mean, that's at least the thesis. So with a view, we're using market rent. We added almost half of the comparables here were post-reference for the previous evidence. And so when we're increasing the rent to this, it's just to account for the fact that at least as long as I've been doing this, rent goes up every year.
Mm-hmm. And do we know what the actual rent is for that space?
So because it's a federal government lease, the feds don't like to pay net rent. What they like to do is they like to pay one big number, gross rent, but it's even more than gross because they end up asking for janitorial, a bunch of other things. And so when you do a federal government lease, typically there isn't a net rent broken out. It's one big number. And so although you could theoretically do the math, the problem with gross rent is they should be paying a premium over a typical net rent because they're getting the certainty of that amount. So I think we calculated it and it was something like 1674 a square foot is what they're paying. But like I said, that's we didn't include it intentionally because it's a bit misleading because there needs to be that gross rent premium. So thinking about that as the market rent for net space and that would be 1674 isn't correct. The feds should pay a premium because of the certainty.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan, questions?
All my questions have been answered, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, and I have no additional questions either. Ms. Schindelman and Mr. Jarnowski, your rebuttal evidence introduced previously, is it also?
It's the exact same. So I think so long as we've got it on the record that you guys have looked at it, I think we're good.
Okay, and Mr. Lobenstein, do you have questions on that rebuttal?
No, I don't.
Mr. Seelan?
No further questions, Madam Chair, on the rebuttal.
Thank you. Ms. Penner?
No, thank you.
Thank you, nor do I. Mr. Lobenstein, would you wish to make a summation?
I have no summation.
Thank you. And Mr. Jarnowski, Ms. Schindelman, summation?
Yep, I think we're spent.
Okay, thank you. That will conclude item number 2. And I guess with that, we've heard all the items scheduled and this hearing is now adjourned. So thank you very much, everyone, for your presentations today and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.